Speaking of gravel, this weekend saw the Gravel World Championships. Matthew van der Poel took the men's title while Marianne Vos won the women's race. Did you see the weird wheel tyre thing she was riding?
I did.
Apparently, we all speculate that we've talked about this in the podcast before, but as I've mentioned before, as soon as a podcast is finished, everything gets deleted from my brain, so I can't actually remember if we have.
See, I feel the opposite. I feel like I'm an encyclopedia of episodes, but I don't remember it. So I wrote this, and then you were, oh yeah, we've talked about this before. Have we? But anyway, regardless, we're going to talk about it anyway. Tell us about it, Francis, please.
It's a €3,900 self-inflating tyre system from a Dutch company called Gravaa AA at the end of Grav. And it basically allows you to change your tyre pressure remotely as you are riding. The idea is that you can adapt your tyre pressure based on the surface you're on. So if it's a mixed surface course, like the Gravel World Champs was, you can run lower pressures on the gravelly bits and then reinflate for the tarmac sections. This weekend's race finished on tarmac, where Vos won in a 2-up sprint against Lotte Kopecky. Obviously, we know how incredible Vos is in a sprint anyway, but clearly Visma Lease a Bike see the benefits of this tech for a race like this. The hub looks big and potentially heavy. So whatever calculations they've done, clearly they think it's worth it.
So for listeners, it's a slightly larger hub with a
stick
tube that runs down one of the spokes with then a valve, a little wire, and then a valve that goes into the Presta valve.
So apparently the hub sucks in air as it's going around.
It acts like a compressor. But obviously, have you seen the compressor in the bike shop? It's like a big thing which has to be hooked up to power and also explodes. There was one day I came in and Nick's compressor was just a black mess on the ground because they left it running and it was outside and it exploded. Anyway, that shouldn't happen to this because but it uses the power that is generated by you rolling along.
But how can a wheel rotating be sufficient compression for it to be able to then inflate a tyre? That seems bonkers.
That is one for the engineers who made this. But yeah, it's called a kinetic compressor.
Why haven't we got them here?
They're here, Jimmy. That's your surprise today.
It's cool. I think it's a cool bit of tech. It's not really needed for a lot of scenarios, but this is a very good application for it.
Things I would like to ask the engineers if they were here. Does it, in the same way as a dynamo, create a little bit of drag? Not enough to affect most people using dynamos in their situation.
I kind of feel like it wouldn't because, well, unless the rotation is specifically part of the compression, maybe that's why.
As in drag, the hub is dragging slightly because...
to create the energy, which then gets pressurized into the valve.
So this was first spotted in the World Tour at Paris-Roubaix in 2022. So it's not brand new. That. And clearly... pro teams are seeing the merit in using it. So I'm assuming if it created significant drag, they wouldn't be using it. Or if there is even any drag, the performance benefit of being able to adjust your tyre pressure for the course outweighs the drag.
But also, Vos just beat Kopecky in a sprint with it. So even if it does add drag, it's not, you don't need to care about it.
Exactly, yeah. So this valve is electronically controlled via 2 small buttons, which Vos had mounted on the inside of a drop, so like the little blip things. The system also monitors pressure loss caused by punctures and slow leaks and will apparently automatically engage the pump to fix these. I think there's probably a limit on what it can fix.
Definitely.
Based on the pressure. You know, if it's a massive explosion, probably not, but it's going to help with small punctures.
It was, I think I read somewhere else, it was like you have to ride 1 kilometer for it to add 10 PSI into your valve.
Right.
So as long as you weren't losing that much pressure via a very small puncture, then you could have a system that keeps you rolling.
But 10 PSI in a large volume tyre is actually a lot.
Of air, yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? Do you think we'll see more of this type of thing? You're right, Jimmy, in what you said, that it's not an everyday needed product, especially when it costs €3,900.
I'm just thinking for bike pack, I'm like, no punches at all. Just keep riding. Psst, just sealant flying everywhere, just constantly going back in.
Just covering you in the face as you're rolling.
Well, eventually you run out of sealant. Or you wouldn't need sealant. You'd start just with nothing.
But let's be honest, though. If you've got tubeless set up well, it's fine in nearly all scenarios.
Or especially with big gravel tires like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I imagine the main draw of this for the pros is mixed terrain courses, which the Gravel World Champs very much was.
Oh, I think we've talked before about how I think it was Visma Lease. It was Visma Lease Bike's mobile command station in the Tour, and it was ultimately looking at how they are sort of approaching Formula One stuff into like bike racing. In Formula One, they control the tire pressures from the pits.
I remember that.
Surely we'll see more of this kind of thing in the gravel race scene as it expands.
Yeah, I would imagine it's one of those things that at that elite level of gravel racing, it will probably get more gravelly, and I think this tech is going to start showing up on all the bikes.